Nigeria, the story everywhere is that of concern expressed for different reasons. Some people are bothered that the rate of insecurity is getting worse by the day, and others are so concerned that what they used to buy with a certain amount of money, bringing it down to elementary terms or level of explanation, what they used to buy with a certain amount of money 5 months ago cannot be bought by double of that same amount of money. It's a huge concern, but we'll try to make sense out of all of this on the interview today, and we have a policy analyst whose specialty is in the oil and gas, and is also a chartered accountant. Bala Zakka, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you.
Nigeria is going through a very difficult time this period when the country spends over 100 billion naira in subsidizing petrol every month. And the group GM of NNPC recently said that the corporation can no longer handle this burden. And it has generated so much debate again. Some people calling for immediate removal of subsidy. And people like you say it is a wrong decision to make.
Correct.
Do you think that Nigeria can sustain the payment of subsidy with the level where the economy of the country is at the moment?
It's a yes and a no answer, but it's better to go with the yes answer. The reason is this. As we speak today, the track that Nigeria is on is just a track that requires recalibration, realignment, and repositioning. Before I go into the details, I want to define subsidy. Subsidy is a globally accepted economic pains cushioning concept. Subsidy is not a Nigerian terminology. Subsidy is a global concept to cushion the economic pains of individual or corporate citizens. And to that extent, subsidy must never be mirrored from the point of Nigeria. It has to be seen from a global perspective. The only reason why subsidy is viewed that way or was defined that way and accepted that way was because it has been discovered by government or leaders globally that leaders of individual nations cannot take care of the individual needs of citizens and corporate entities. And to that extent, the concept of subsidy came into being, meaning that for all those who may not be in public sector, if there is subsidy, they may be able, depending on their creative abilities and mental dexterities and other management capabilities, take care of themselves, create aggregate growth within the economy, and build the GDP. And to that extent, subsidy is necessary in health. Subsidy is necessary in education. Subsidy is necessary in oil and gas. Subsidy is necessary in transportation, in agriculture, and the rest.
We are concentrating on the oil sector now.
Okay.
And the group general manager of the NNPC that has been carrying the burden of subsidizing petrol says it is no longer tenable. And you are saying that it shouldn't be thought about at a time like this.
Even if the group managing director of NNPC or the president of Nigeria says subsidy cannot be sustained, if I am to advise either of them, I will just tell them that it is in their own interest to look for creative ways and make sure we have subsidy, especially in the aspect that has to do with what we call distillates or white products or crude oil products, than to be ready or stand and see the kind of economic, social, and political anarchy and calamities that the removal of subsidy will cause. That is the best advice I'm going to give them. And the reasons are simple.
Right.
Before you talk about the removal of subsidy or deregulation of the downstream sector of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, you have to ask yourself basic questions. And from asking yourself basic questions, you need to even look at the indices or the variables that leads to the growth of the GDP of a country. The first one is probably the consumption index. Consumption index is a function of disposable income. And when you talk about disposable income, you are basically talking about that quantum of income that comes to an individual, whether individual employee or corporate entity, after paying civic responsibilities or obligations.
In form of taxes.
In form of taxes. So, in the context of Nigeria today, what is the disposable income? The disposable income is very low, because as we speak today, minimum wage in Nigeria is less than $100. And whether we like it or not, dollar is an international currency. It's the currency of transaction when you're talking about the oil and gas industry, and is a currency of international reference. The minimum wage in Nigeria today is less than $100. So when you look at it from the consumption index, right, the disposable income is probably nothing. Then there is an index again that is even eating or has eroded the meager disposable income, and that is what we call inflation. But when you come back to the oil and gas industry again, because we were talking about the relationship, today you're talking about Nigerian population of probably 200 million citizens, both individuals and corporate citizens combined, depending on the electricity value or generation of less than 7,000 megawatt.
In other words, a lot of people depend on privately generated power, which is driven by petroleum. Is
exactly.
That where you're going to?
The reason is because everywhere you go, first of all, you require electricity. But we generate in Nigeria less than 7,000 megawatt. So divide 7,000 megawatt by 200 million, and you look at that. But when you want to look at it sectorally now, then you can classify the sectors into three. We have strategic domestic sectors, we have strategic industrial sectors, and strategic commercial sectors.
Mr. Zakka, I would like us to bring it down to where every Nigerian will be able to understand what the issues are. The federal government, through the NNPC, says they cannot continue to spend over 100 billion naira monthly in subsidizing petrol to ensure that it is being sold at the petrol station at the same price where it is presently, which is about 166 or thereabout naira. The concern a lot of people have is, some people have, is that if Nigeria continues to do this, we may get to a point where the national treasury may not be able to, will lose the basic liquidity that it has.
What keeps a country going, right, is integrity, focus, and the plan of action. That is what keeps a country going and makes a country relevant amongst the Committee of Nations. And coming back to my point again, we have three sectors: strategic industrial sector, strategic commercial sector, and strategic domestic sector, all depending on less than 7,000 megawatts of electricity.
I agree that there is no way Nigerian citizens can get power without looking towards petrol, diesel, or kerosene. And the federal government says there is also no way they can continue with payment of subsidy. My question now is, how sustainable, how realistic is it to expect that federal government should continue to pay subsidy on petrol?
The reason why it is realistic and government must embark on that is, in the case of government, now let's compare Nigeria and another country. It is not because of our population. It is not population that makes a country to be respected. It is the integrity of the leaders of a country that guarantees them necessary loans, necessary relationship. and necessary international appreciation and necessary support. So in the case of Nigeria, the only reason why we feel we cannot sustain it is because, in the first place, our leaders have not been futuristic. They have not been futuristic because they needed to have known that somehow, somewhere, the population was supposed to be rising and increasing, and activities were supposed to be rising and increasing. Every country you go to, leaders are supposed to be generational in their thinking. They are supposed to be strategic and generational in their planning. In other words, you sit down today and you project into the next 30 years or 50 years. Ask yourself the level of industrial activities that may be required. Ask yourself what will be the population. Ask yourself energy requirements, and you come up with plans. As at the time you are coming up with plans, it's not your liquidity that matters, but it's the genuineness of your plan, the good intentions of your plan, and you look for partnership or support that would bring you out of the likely doldrums.
I think I agree with you to a large extent on the assumption or the premise that we have had poor visionary leaders
Yes.
over the years.
Yes.
It didn't just start now,
Yes.
but that is part of our reality.
But
what we are looking at now is how to get out of the box where Nigeria is presently. Nigeria, according to government, cannot continue with the payment of subsidy.
Nigeria must look for a way to continue with the payment of subsidy. And let me explain.
If government stops payment of subsidy now, if I ask it to help you,
yes.
If government stops payment of subsidy now, what do you think are the basic danger it will pose that will make you say it must continue?
If government stops the payment of subsidy, as I speak to you, knowing also that Nigeria is experiencing what we call business climate hostilities, knowing also that the value of the naira has been diluted due to depreciation or what I can call currency devaluation, and also knowing that our balance of trade is near negative. If the government decides to stop subsidy, I will tell you that there will be anarchy. And the reason why there will be anarchy is this. In the first place, a price of a liter of petrol may get to like 250 or 300 naira per liter. Then the question is this: what happens to even the little barbers that we were thinking were managing to survive? What happens to the little hairdressers? What happens to the other people that are having business centers and rest will be jobless? What happens to even the people or companies that before had drivers that were driving their cars and the rest? They will not afford it. So the population of Nigerians that will be thrown into the jobless market, whether they are underemployed or unemployable, will be astronomical. And I'm telling you, the country will be thrown into social anarchy.
If the people understand that...
And warlords will be created.
If the people understand that this is a price that has to be paid because of where we are now, we cannot continue to blame leaders of the past. We have to take responsibility, I think. And if everyone understands this, that it is time to take responsibility, and we are going to bear the pain for a while. Because I understand from hearing, listening to other economists, and financial people like you, that if government pulls out of, payment of subsidy, it will deregulate the market. The prices will go up definitely at the beginning, and then begin to come down, just like the example we had with the telephone, with the GSM, that when it came into Nigeria, it was a different scenario entirely.
No. Anybody that says if you deregulate today, prices will come down is
not immediately.
They will never come back down in the long run. The reason is this: you are deregulating the price of a product that you are importing. You are not deregulating the price of product that you produce locally. And remember, you have a very weak currency. And because you have a very weak currency, you will require more currency to import. So the deregulation that is focused towards import will only create what we call speculative investors. People will never come in to build refineries. And let me explain to you why. If you deregulate today, speculative investors are the kind of investors that you will create. It will be cheaper for them and safer for them to get import license, call their friends from different parts of the world. Their friends will just ship in these same refined products to them. Then when they come and they get to the territorial waters of Nigeria, even if it is one naira margin they will be making, they will discharge them and go back. You will never be able to create institutional investors. And let me tell you, I will give you a practical example of how deregulation works, or two practical examples. Price of water is deregulated today. Bottled water price is deregulated. And this is the way deregulation works, which many people don't understand and are comparing with petroleum products. The reason, if you go to you can walk into a hotel or a restaurant, buy a bottle of water at 2,000 naira. That same bottle of water, you can buy it 70 naira or 100 naira on the street. That is how deregulation works. Do you know why Nigerians are not complaining?
Because there are options?
Because first of all, there are different options of getting that water.
Okay.
Then most importantly, you are not importing that water. So another example is something like probably rice. You have imported rice coming and you have rice in Nigeria. The reason why people are not bothered is because there is Abakaliki rice, there is Ofada rice, there is KB rice and the rest. In the case of refined petroleum product, the first thing is this: you have the raw material here. All you needed is the discipline to have processed it. So because you have the raw material and you are importing and you have a weak currency, your currency will continue to get weak. And anybody who tells you that at the rate the value of the naira is depreciating, at the rate diaspora remittances are reducing, at the rate investors are shying away from Nigeria, whether foreign or local investors, anybody who tells you that when you deregulate today, the price of refined petroleum products that are imported will reduce, or we will get to an equilibrium where it will be cheap, will be telling you lies. And when you do this, we are matching it with disposable income.
There are efforts to get at least one refinery working in Nigeria. Government recently approved $1.5 billion for the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt refinery. If that refinery comes up working and maybe work up to 50% capacity, hopefully,
yes,
which it has never done before,
yeah,
if it works up to 50% capacity, hopefully, it will reduce the overdependence on imported petroleum. And also, we are aware that some private refineries are also setting up. So these are ways of cutting down the reliance on imported products.
Good. You should, as you continue to provide subsidy, come up with an aggressive way of cutting down reliance on importation of refined petroleum products. And this is, the federal government has taken the bold step that I have never expected, to have that effect, because that was what we were supposed to have done. Let me tell you, any country of a population of 200 million that decides to depend on the import of a sensitive product that is related to how that country drives her energy will grind the economy sometime, someday, to the brick wall and into the valley. And let me explain something. When the deregulation of PMS was being touted or discussed, we were told that diesel has been deregulated and people are not complaining. All those people that are saying diesel has been deregulated, price of diesel has been deregulated, and Nigerians are not complaining, then those people have never been close to investors. They don't know anything about investors, because if you go now, so many strategic industrial and commercial sectors have collapsed. Industries have collapsed because they cannot afford the price of diesel. So all those people that are saying diesel has been deregulated and nothing is happening, they have never had anything to do close to investment.
Okay, now...
and it is investment and strategic industrial and commercial investors and investment that we require to move this economy forward.
Now, we talked about the refinery, getting the refinery back running.
Downstream.
The public refinery, that is one owned by government, while other private refineries are also coming up. There are thoughts here and there that government has never been a perfect manager of businesses. Refineries should run as a business. And with the way it is, some people had expected that the Port Harcourt refinery, particularly the one that is being paid attention to now, should have been handed over to a private entity, private organization or company to manage, to repair and manage, instead of government going into it. That this $1.5 billion being given to being set aside for the rehabilitation of that refinery may just be a waste at the end of the day.
Never. Can I tell you something? One big mistake a lot of people are doing, including Nigerians that I have always respected, unfortunately, the big mistake many of them have been doing is they assume that Nigeria is a wealthy country. Nigeria is not a wealthy country. Nigeria is a very, very poor country. Nigeria is only rich in human and material or natural resources. But our leaders have not been able to help us as Nigerians to crystallize or metamorphose the human and material riches into wealth. And that is the thing. A lot of Nigerians are living a fake life. Recently, we heard about a legendary bank that was involved in insider trading. Everybody saw it. Many people we were thinking were rich Nigerians. It became very clear that all of them were debtors. Something again people need to understand is this. Most of the refineries we've been talking about, we need to bring ancillary refineries. And I heard people talking about modular refineries.
Exactly, that's the next phase.
It's very sad.
That's the next phase I intend to go to, because if a lot of people had said, engineers, people in that field had said that if modular refineries are set up in many places, it will help in creating softer and easier ways of refining petroleum product to service the economy. But some people like you also believe that, or say that, modular refineries are not the answer.
Modular refineries can never be the answer, and it still comes back to what we have been saying. In the first place, let me clear something. What Nigerians need today is principally petrol, because a greater part of Nigerians, depend on petrol not only to move their little automobiles, but to be able to carry out their activities and contribute to the growth of the GDP. Modular refineries do not produce petrol. Quote me. And that is where I feel disappointed in so many technical people. The reason is this: modular refineries are not equipped with catalytic cracking units. And to that extent, they don't. But when you talk about standard refineries, big ones that can only be afforded by the governments and the Dangotes, those are the refineries that can produce petrol. That is one point I want to let you.
Let me just chip in before you round it up. That is a technological situation in the modular refinery, the way it is, structured.
Yes.
But if someone sets out to say, I want to use this modular refinery to refine petrol, all it needs to do is to bring in what doesn't exist there and put in it, so that it will be able to give you the desired output.
The point you are still making will never bring the economy out of the woods. And let me say something that a lot of people don't know. Modular refineries are almost 100% automated. If you have modular refineries as the size of Ikosi, OK2 in Lagos, Nigeria, you probably don't require more than 10 people to drive that refinery and have everything. So anybody that also tells you that modular refinery can create jobs is lying to you.
But at least companies to provide petroleum.
Not when you are talking, you can't even provide petrol. You are talking about 200 million citizens. You are talking about a mistake that has been done for probably the last 30 years. And we are saying, let us go back on track.
All right, in 1 minute, Mr. Zakka, I would like you to summarize your position. Federal government says they cannot continue with payment of subsidy because the economy cannot sustain it. And your view is that that shouldn't be the situation now. in summary, in just less than 1 minute, what do you recommend that the steps that federal government should take in the immediate to alleviate the fear that is coming, that if subsidy continues, the economy may crumble completely?
Government just needs to go ahead with the subsidy and embark on the transparent and adequate and genuine intention of reviving her refineries. All that needs to happen is this: if government shows genuine intentions, she can be supported, she can be given genuine loans that are targeted towards such capital projects. And all that needs to happen is this: within Nigeria, we will get the crude oil from the wellheads in Naira, move them through the pipelines or through wagons or tankers to the respective refineries in Naira, generate our Naira, refine everything in Naira, distribute them to Nigerians in Naira, and first of all, free ourselves from exchange rate pressures and differentials. Then the excess, we can now agree with other West African countries, have rail lines and pipelines, move our petrol to them, create depots there and supply gas and the rest, and control the regional economy. If not, Nigeria will eventually grind herself to a halt. But let me say something.
I think we are really short of time now. Our time is gone. But I can summarize what you say, that if there is one element of it all that will save Nigeria, is sincerity of purpose. Am I right?
Internal domestication.
Internal domestication. Thank you so much, Mr. Zakka, for sparing your time to share your wealth of knowledge with us on Special Interview today.
Thank you.
And to you that watched, it's our pleasure that you did. Stay with TVC News as we bring you more of these enlightening interviews. Thank you for watching.